let's get to it. I want to make sure that we recognize that our theme today is on domestic violence, and today is October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we will be tweeting out about that. We have some hashtags for you that we'll put in the chat, which is hashtag We Are Resilient at the Friday Power Lunch. So because our show, it's so topical, go ahead and tweet about this important subject. So we're glad you're in the room to discuss it. I'm Catherine White. I'm your badass host today. I have my great team here with me, and we have a great lineup for the show. It's domestic and sexual violence. The fight for justice continues. And let's just say this today, the team and the guests are all about fighting for justice, from labor rights, from rights for people that are struggling, just to even get heard in court when they have a case on domestic violence. Also, we will also be talking about voting rights and that kind of justice. So we definitely have a great lineup for you. And let's just get to it. We have some great guests. I want to bring them up on the screen today. We have Will Rumford, from organizing manager from Voter Turnout, the Virginia Voter Turnout Project. How are you doing, Will?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be here, and I just really appreciate all the energy and just getting to be here is super exciting to me. So thank you.
Well, that's exciting to us. And you're coming into Virginia from, I want to say Maine, but I'm making that up.
Good question. Yeah, so I work for Pete Buttigieg in New Hampshire. I've actually been a few places, as you can tell from my background. I'm originally from the DC area, spent time in Minneapolis, Seattle. And then showed up in New Hampshire without a job, a permanent place to stay, and just got started. And I've been doing organizing and relational organizing ever since.
Awesome. We're so glad you're here, because I know a lot of people in the room, it is really time. It's October. It's all about voting. So Will, we're so glad that you're here with us. So super. And next up, a friend of the show and a friend in general. We love her, Lisa Sales, sexual and domestic violence advocate. How are you, friend? You're looking good as usual.
I'm here to empower and respect.
Empower and respect. And yes, you said it right. And I'm so glad you're here to talk about this subject. It's so topical, as we said, and just so important to women and men and families, and really respect in general. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Alongside, we're going to hear from Susheela Varkey. How are you? And from domestic and sexual violence attorney from the Virginia Poverty Law Center. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Catherine. It's wonderful to see you all here, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, good discussion. We really need that, your angle on the law angle. So we're so glad you're here. So thank you so much. You do, like we said, you also do yoga, don't you? Are you no? What is it?
I should do yoga. That would be really good for a type A person to do more regularly. I teach a Bollywood dance fitness class called Bolly X.
The class I saw. Well, we do have a yoga class for you. Steer does run one, so we'll get you signed up for that. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, next up, as part of this, she's not here. She's actually at a conference. Buta Biberaj is not here, but she's the Commonwealth attorney for Loudoun. And she had sent in a video about the case we're going to discuss today. And then we will turn it to, as we say, a different kind of justice that we have on the show. We have a great guest on, Sue Youngo, Virginia director of NACASEC. And that stands for National Korean American Service and Education Consortium. Big word.
Hi, I'm actually here representing the NACASEC Action Fund. And don't worry about the acronym. You just need to know we work with Asian Americans. Thank you.
You really said it right there. Well, good. That's what I had here. And so great to have you. You're right down in Annandale from me. So thank you so much. We're looking forward to hearing what you're doing to get out the vote in Virginia. And then lastly, awesome, David Broder, president of SEIU Virginia 512. How you doing, David?
I'm really excited to be here with all of you and to let you know how you can help essential workers in Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, you're always on it. I know you have some good stuff to tell us, and you're always fighting a good fight for justice for working families. So thanks, David. Great to have you in the room. And then also we're going to have a segment with some of the lead marchers here. Ginny Reed from HRI, Yvonne Wallace Fuentes from Roanoke, woo, Roanoke, and Sherilyn Potts from Richmond, Virginia. She'll be doing the march in Richmond, and also Pastor Karen Casperson from Woodstock. So welcome in the room, and can't wait to hear about what you'll be doing in the later segment about getting people activated to hit the streets and march. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Why not? We have great content. And also put a thumbs up on our videos and follow us on social media. And the links will be in the chat. But more importantly, what we always love, if you can save time to stay for the after chat from 1 to 1:30, that's where we build this community. So if you can do it, please join us. And that means even our special guest today. And also I wanted to say thank you to a new patron. We have Annabelle, thank you so much for being a patron, just for signing up to our subscription for just the low cost of $5 a month. You support the show and we really appreciate it. So thank you. Now let's bring up my team. My team, I love them. We work really hard every week. I'm surprised we're just not sick of each other. We've been doing this for 5 years, Stare. Are you sick of me?
Getting there. No, love it. Love it. It's been wonderful working with you, Catherine, and Robin as well. So happy Friday, everyone. I'm looking forward to marching tomorrow and hearing about some of the other marches in Virginia. So
yeah,
thank you.
Thanks. And Robin, the show was, I made you laugh. That's my goal every week, if I can make her giggle. Robin, harder to make giggle, but she's here. How are you, Robin?
I'm great, and I'm so excited that we are doing a fabulous job with the postcards. We're way past our mark, and we're doing our GOTV postcards. We're going to be mailing out on October 15th, and at that show, we're going to be talking with Postcards to Swing States about all their incredible studies they did in 2020 that show just how powerful postcards are. So if you need to write more postcards, we got the addresses as Postcards for VA.
Yeah, you always bring it for postcards, and it's such a great part of the team that we have this new updates every week. So
and if you need postcards, be sure to visit the Badass Boutique.
Oh, that's right.
We got some great ones.
Here, I have 500 to write for Dan Helmer more, so I got to get busy while I'm doing the show. I'll be writing those. And lastly, shortstop, Rosemarie Savino, what you bringing today for me, girl?
Hey everybody, it's happy Friday, TGIF. It's great to see everybody. And it is the 1st of October, which literally came out of nowhere. But it means two things. One, I have to find the under bed container with all my sweaters and long pants. And number two, vote. Vote, vote, vote. You can vote early. You don't have to wait for November the 2nd. But remember, when we vote, we win. Woo!
We win. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And Louisa, show news anchor, is here, and she would be great because we're going to have her and Will on together. So I'll wait to bring her up. But I want to introduce somebody very special today, Jalicia Ward.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Well, how are you? Let me see where you are yet. I don't see you coming up yet. How are you doing? Now,
I'm good. How are you? Am I up?
You are up. I can see you. You look good. And I want to tell everybody, we always love to have co-hosts. And today you're our MC co-host, and you will be doing a very important part, the segment on the domestic violence piece. But we have been really searching to find somebody to help us with this emceeing and bringing another voice to the table. And, you ran for office, correct?
Yes, I did. I'm a former candidate from the Virginia House of Delegates here in District 99, the Northern Neck.
99, I love that. And that's where Linwood, what's this?
Blizzard, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, Blizzard, who doesn't want to give money to a guy named Blizzard, but.
Right, you can't forget his name.
Well, it's great. And I just am so happy that you decided you would want to join us and talk with everybody today. So let's just get this party started, as we said. So what are you thinking about? Did you watch the governor's debate? Did you have anybody in the room? Raise your hand. Who watched the governor debate the other night? Yeah, Will, you didn't watch it? Are you serious? Okay. Okay, great. What did people think? Put it in the chat. Were you leaning that you think, did you think Terry did a great job? Did you think, I thought, anybody? Yvonne, raise your hand. What do you, yeah. Okay, let's put some thumbs up. Maybe did he hold his own? I see one thumbs up. Well,
I
Well,
will say he was really good at our Canvas launch last weekend in Arlington. He was fantastic. And so was Senator Klobuchar. Tons of energy and really great turnout. We had over 100 people.
yes, great. That, well, you know, Amy, this is the point, right? Amy routed out here in Fairfax too. So that's, I think that energy is really helping our candidate. So that's awesome. All right, so what else is on our mind today? Do we want to, anything else, Jolie? Do you want to tell the crowd about you before we get it started?
Oh, I can give you guys a quick summary for those who don't know me. You know, I am a well-known activist and advocate. I do go by those first prior to former candidate and politician because I'm very passionate about everything that I do. I did start my journey as an activist, helping a family that I know personally fight for justice after their loved one was murdered. Throughout this process, I've been able to work with amazing delegates, community leaders, and lots of organizations, helping other families along the line fight for the injustices that they were personally going through within their families. And of course, all of this entire journey and adventure, true story, has led me to run for office and not go back to the federal government where I was working to prior, because the impact and that gap and that voice was needed. And so I am super excited to be on this journey to run my campaign, to now join Linwood Blizzard's campaign, because the ultimate goal is flipping our district blue, keeping Virginia blue, and not getting backtracked after the hard work that everybody has put in the last 2 years. So I'm super excited to be here with all of you to co-host today with you amazing, badass women. And I'm ready to get this Friday started.
So, you know, you always show up and you always just bring it wherever and you were with us all summer at every single woman's summit. So you rock. So let's get it going. We want to make sure that we start with the news because we always have Louisa Borowski, the lead of the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, on to tell us what the heck is going on and what we need to do. And I want to bring up Will, also Rumford, alongside her because they are going to talk about Virginia and turning out the vote. So what do you got for me, Louisa, and how you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I just got my booster earlier this morning, so I'm starting to feel woozy. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet and turn it over to Will to take us home. So as we've said multiple times, it's a turnout year in Virginia. We have got to get people to go and vote, and there are multiple ways to do that. First thing I want to say is it is a big canvassing weekend. It's also a marching weekend, but it's a canvassing weekend too. And so I'm going to put canvassing opportunities in the chat. We've got our 50,000 doors in 50 days canvas. Those guys are down in Virginia Beach. They're knocking for Fennell Norton, who I saw on the call, as well as a couple of other candidates. And then the Virginia Turnout Project, it's their Knocktober weekend, and they are focused and need a lot of help in Fairfax and Manassas, because as you know, those are some really blue areas that we need to make sure those Democratic voters are getting out on the doors. I was canvassing on Sunday last week, and there were just tons of people who were like, oh yeah, I mean, I know that there's an election, but so few of them know about early voting. And we really want to bank these votes early. So I'm going to put that information in the chat for you. This week is our two candidates of the week are Brianna Sewell and Dan Helmer. So I will put information about them. Please, if you can, go to social media, show them some love, make sure that we're able to get some focus on their races. And then lastly, the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, we're meeting on Sunday, starting at 4 p.m. I'm going to put the link to RSVP in the chat. If you haven't signed up and you don't have the Zoom link yet, please do. We're going to be talking about the 2021 elections, but also legislative issues, because we are starting to figure out what are our legislative priorities for 2022. So that is all for me. And Will, over to you.
That's really short. I have to interrupt 1 second. I have a PSA. I have somebody calling me, somebody can't get in the links, we have a good security system, but I don't know if people, if we can take care of that stare or who's on it to check to make sure people registering are getting the link. I get called right in the middle of the show sometimes. And
I
I'm
think
like,
the big problem now I'm having the same issues with is that all these things are going into promotions and spam. So people aren't seeing them in the same way they used to. Thank you, Google. Yeah.
yeah, I know that happens to me all the time. And, the promotion piece. So talk about promotion. I had the pleasure of last week meeting Will, and all of us are like, what's going on with the coordinated? Like, what are we doing? And we need to win. So what the heck? So Will is here to tell us what the heck on his point of view. And so what the heck do you have for us, and how are you going to bring it over the finish line, Will? It's all on you.
Sure. Catherine, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you. And Louisa, thank you as well. Both of you have been such great helps to me and to the campaign. And just to everyone, Stare, Robin, everyone, thank you so much for having me. So what the heck? You might be thinking first, who the heck am I? So my name's Will. I am the distributed program manager on the Virginia Turnout Project, leading our relational efforts. So that's a lot of words. All you really need to know is that I've been brought on to help us take GOTV to the next level. And not necessarily to replace the work that you are already doing, but actually to enhance and support it. And the way we're doing that actually is through what's called relational organizing, which is both an old concept and a new one. So the old part of it is talking to your friends, your neighbors, family, people you know. This is something we've all been doing, but it's something that when paired with technology, with an app that we're using called Reach, it can be done at scale. So a great example of this is this app, the same app that we're using. It's called Reach. This app was used by John Ossoff's campaign in the runoff. And some of you may be thinking, okay, I love the concept, but what if we only have a month? What are we going to possibly accomplish in a month? Well, John Ossoff's campaign was able to turn out an additional 35,000 voters who had not voted in the general in the runoff by having people reach out to the people they know. So talk about trying to cut through the noise. There's a lot of people vying for voters' attention. The real trick here is having people they trust authentically and genuinely check in with them, make sure they have their plan to vote. And the key to this is really you. So what I want to do is provide this resource that we've already essentially provided for statewide, and it can be used by any group, any campaign, any committee can jump in and start using this. It's already set up. It's just a matter of getting you up and running on it. And we can quickly and effectively turn out the vote at scale. And so what I wanted to share with you all today is that I am hosting a 15-minute session on Sunday at 7 o'clock. I'm calling it 15 to Win, working on my branding, and would love to have you stop by that. Please encourage people to come to it. I'm going to give you the full rundown on how this works. We offer trainings, we offer friend banks, but ultimately what this is about is putting the tools in your hands and trusting that you have the capacity and the wherewithal to get the vote out. One other thing I wanted to add, you may be thinking, hey, Will, my network, the people I know are already fully activated. I know they're voting. I know they're turning out. This is also about being smarter as a campaign. So by doing your canvassing work with the people you know, including those you already know are going to turn out, you're actually helping us as a campaign prioritize and make sure we're not trying to reach people who are already guaranteed to turn out, right? This is sort of the next evolution of where campaigning can go and be smarter. So work smarter, not harder. As cliche as it sounds, that's also part of this effort. And ultimately, the third piece to this is that it's about strengthening the fabric of our community, which is oftentimes with door knocking and phone banking and a lot of traditional efforts become kind of self-fulfilling prophecies in which everyone's so focused on high propensity voters that they forget to bring other people into the fold. And this is an exercise in really knitting that fabric that makes us even stronger. And I'm very excited to be using this for GOTV, but I believe that ultimately we can give this tool to you on a year-round basis, so that no matter who that comes in like me, we're showing up to support you, and you already have the infrastructure you need to mobilize people and bring them into the fold and get them voting. So long story short, join us 7 o'clock on Sunday for 15 minutes, and you'll get the whole rundown. Thank you.
Well, I had to laugh, Will, because I loved in the chat, somebody said, Ali said, hypothetically speaking, what if we don't have any friends? Which I'm sorry, I started laughing during your segment because I read that.
Sure.
Yeah, well, so now you have, well, we hope we can help with that in the
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I would say I'm not particularly well connected myself in Virginia, but the key is organizing, right? It's about finding partners, finding people who want to work with us, and they don't have to be best. They don't have to know you to want to partner. So it's really about seeking out opportunities to support. Basically, I've already had a number of candidates hop on to our trainings, just go rogue and show up to our trainings because they need this. So if you can think of anyone who needs this tool, and it's again already created, already set up for everyone, just think who you can connect us with, and we'll get them started.
I think I'll talk to Louisa about it later, but it sounds like we could do a quick candidate if you've already not done it. Like I see Fennell Norton's in the room, I see Kathleen Murphy's in the room. There's a lot of candidates in the room. Some are listening in. They can have a special just 15 to whatever short minutes to really organize their campaign quickly. I know I've done it through Swing Left, and then I know some people may know how to do this. You may want to drop some of their easy instructions for people that can do this quickly with the code you have and may not need the training. So I would do that. Plus we'll keep reminding people to get into that 15-minute training. Who doesn't like it?
And so Will, it's not just your friends, right? I mean, this will tap into your network on your phone, right? So it'll be your family. For me, it'll be like work. There are a lot of people who I know through work who live in Virginia, and being able to easily text them and say, "Hey, have you remembered to vote?" Sometimes they just aren't thinking about it, and so I think that your network is more than just the close friends.
Absolutely, and and you need to go make sure you rest.
I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
Okay, we need to move on to our next segment. So thank you, Will and Louise, as usual. And take care of yourself, my friend. It never feels good to be woozy. And let's get it with Stare, and let's pop on all our awesome leaders. And I have to say, I know some of them who have led marches. I know Yvonne Wallace-Fuentes is a badass down in Roanoke. You guys have a march every year. I'll let Stare take the segment over, but we're so excited you're here. We need to rock it. So let's go.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. It's time to march not only in DC, but across Virginia for women's reproductive and fundamental rights. Network Nova is joining the Feminist Majority Now, including Virginia Now, and others on Saturday in DC at the east end of Freedom Plaza. We'll meet at 10:30 at 13th and Constitution. We'll be carrying and handing out signs, "Don't Texas Virginia," "Keep Virginia Blue," and of course, "Vote." We've also made cards, which we'll hand out and have made available for free at the Badass Boutique. So check that out. You can pick them up or we'll ship them out. And the signs are also available for pickup. So remember, if you're tweeting, use "Don't Texas VA" and "Keep VA Blue." So also meeting in DC are our friends at Herndon, Rest, and Indivisible. So Ginny, let me pass it to you and let you know people are going on there.
Okay, so Herndon, Rest, and Indivisible is going to be present at the rally. We're going to be holding our unlighted letters because it's daytime and the lights don't really work during the day. We have a very special message that we're going to be holding. Some of you may be old enough to remember a journal from years back, a lesbian feminist journal called "Off Our Backs." And we are going to be using that as our lighted letters, unlighted letters for this rally. We'll be meeting at 11 and standing through the full rally that goes from 11 until 1:30. We could use some extra volunteers to help us hold letters. I've broken up that period of time into 2 time slices so that our volunteers don't have to hold letters for 2.5 hours. I have openings in the second half. I can put the link into the chat room, or one of you organizers can put it back up again. That's not it, so you're going to have to do it for me. Let me get rid of that one. You may have seen us at previous marches. We hold letters up on poles so we have good visibility from the crowd, and we will be there in 2 shifts wearing our yellow letters. You can see us from a previous rally. Behind my face for the people was the letters that we held, I believe, at Black Lives Matter Plaza when the Texas delegation was actually there and speaking for John Lewis' anniversary of his death day. So I look forward to it. If any of you can join us, there's a Sign Up Genius link. Hopefully one of you leaders can drop that into the chat again on my behalf, and you can sign up. The second period is from 12:15 until 1:30, and we have openings for volunteers to hold our letters then. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's wonderful to see the letters from HRI. So let's go down the road to Roanoke. That was the last march that I participated in. Yvonne, if you could give us some words.
Absolutely, Sarah. I remember that was the weekend right before everything shut down at Roanoke, the 2020 Women's March. We're so excited once again here in Southwest Virginia to share our news with you. Our sisters in the blazing blue part of Virginia. We're in the not quite so blue, but we're working harder to turn it as blue as we can. We will be holding our sister rally for reproductive justice tomorrow at Rivers Edge Park. People are starting to gather at around 10:30. The actual rally itself starts at noon. Please note that the National Women's March map has 2 times and 2 places. That's a mistake. So if you have anybody in Roanoke who's trying to figure out which march, tell them that it's the Rivers Edge earlier march. It's not at Elmwood Park later. But we have a fantastic program. I'm very excited that we have a bunch of young women and others who have been mobilized and energized really by what's happening nationally, and really realizing that this is an issue that we absolutely have to rally on right now, because it's not just about abortion justice. I mean, let me be absolutely clear. I'm all about abortion justice, but this is also about the control of women's lives. Who gets to decide the landscape of women's lives, right? Reproductive justice is not just about terminating pregnancies. It is about birth control. It is about agency. And so we're going to have women who are going to be sharing some really powerful stories about how this has affected their life. We're going to have high energy music. We're going to have a sign making station. So if you don't have your sign ready, don't worry about it. We're going to have supplies and ideas. And then after our 12 o'clock rally, we will be marching in place in Rivers Edge Park. So if you are in the Roanoke area in Southwest Virginia, we can't wait to see you. And we're so happy to be partnering with women across this nation to make sure that people understand that we are not going to go back.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's move up the road to Pastor Karen in Woodstock.
Yes, we're planning a big rally tomorrow. We're going to meet at about noon at the intersection of Route 42 and Route 11. It's known as the Food Lion parking lot with Las Trancas restaurant. And what we're going to do is walk from there down to the old courthouse in the main part of Woodstock. We're going to have signs. We're going to have peaceful comments. And also at the very end, we're going to have a small rally. Jennifer Moore, who is our leader, is going to be speaking. And then I also will be, I'll be the last speaker. So we're hoping that in very ruby red Shenandoah Valley, that we need to make a statement and let people know that there are many of us who are aware and are seeking social justice, that we believe women need an important statement, and that needs to be done in Woodstock and the surrounding areas. In 2017, we had about 370 marchers on the day after the inauguration for the Women's March. We're hoping to have even more this year. So please spread the word. You're not alone in Shenandoah Valley. There are others who believe the way you do, that women have rights and that we need to respect them and not hinder them in any way. I lived in a time before Roe v. Wade, and we don't want to return to that. So tomorrow, noon, the Route 11 and Route 42 intersection in Woodstock, and then at the old courthouse. And we're looking forward to having it and having a great day. The weather's supposed to be terrific.
Thank you, Karen. And finally, but certainly not least, is the well-supported march in RVA, Bands Off Our Body. Sherilyn, Chief Organizer, getting it done.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sherilyn, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm just a mom from Chesterfield County. And when I heard about SB 8 Sue My Neighbor bill, I was really shocked and angry. And then I heard people were starting to march. And so I reached out to Monica, who normally organizes the Women's March in Richmond, but she is busy being a hero in the hospital. So I also reached out to Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia and asked what would be beneficial. And they said, get out the vote, register people to vote, ask people to canvass, let's recruit some new, fresh people. And meanwhile, Monica put me in contact with Robin Goodfellow, who is interested in helping. And they've organized a little bit of like Carytown Pride and some events, and definitely has amazing connections. They really have been so helpful, and slowly we started collecting diverse strangers, and we've all just started working together, and it's really been amazing because we don't know each other at all. We a bunch of us just met this 2 days ago, Wednesday, in person for the final time, and it's coming together great, and we are truly grassroots and definitely not professional organizers at all. And we just have our anger and our compassion. You know, we believe when someone decides to end their pregnancy, they deserve to do so with support of who they love and trust. And we're really excited about our program. We've got a rally happening. It kicks off at 10:30 with tabling and guided meditation and grounding. And we're going to be starting at Diversity Richmond. And then we're gonna have speakers at 11:15ish. We've got Senator McClellan, abortion storytellers, clinicians, abortion doulas, and everyone's gonna share how it impacts all of us. And then we march at 12. And we're going to have ASL interpretation by Mosaic Interpretation Services. There we go. And we've got the RVG bus, and so you can come out and sign it and bring somebody who isn't registered to vote or has never canvassed or phone banked before, and we're going to show you how, and it's really fun, and we're going to have a good time, and yeah, that's it.
So thank you everyone for coming out and telling us about this. It looks like everything is really well organized, and let's get it done tomorrow.
I have to say, Stair, I want to be at everybody's march. You guys made him so appealing that I think we have to have a tour. Richmond is bringing it. Woodstock is bringing it. Roanoke is bringing it. But we need to get on to the next topic, and I'm going to hand it over in capable hands. Jalicia, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me back. So as we all know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm going to share a quick story, and then we do have some guests that's actually going to go into further detail in this story that I'm going to share. So imagine being a victim of domestic violence and having to testify against your abuser in court. Katie Orndorff was subpoenaed by prosecutors to appear in court against the man who assaulted her. This was the man's third offense, and in Virginia, the third offense makes it a felony. Loudoun County Circuit Court Judge James P. Fisher presided over the September 7th trial. During Katie Orndorff's cross-examination, the judge stopped the proceedings and released the jury. He then questioned Ms. Orndorff about her drug use. After she acknowledged she had smoked marijuana, which we all know is legal in the Commonwealth of Virginia, earlier in the day, he cited for her contempt of court and ordered her 10 days in jail, 10 days. She was hauled out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Remember, she was subpoenaed to testify, taken to jail where she was strip searched and forced to drug testing. The judge declared a mistrial in this case against her assailant. Ms. Orndorff was in jail for 2 days before her lawyer could get her released on bond. Then the judge rejected her effort to rescind his contempt conviction and vacate the charges from her record. In fact, he refused any kind of hearing on a petition for dismissal of the criminal charge, which is extremely rare. So before we even get started, check out all of this coverage this story has received. People are talking and people are paying attention. And while the coverage plays, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to who's joining us today to talk further about this. I'm joined in our look at this case by domestic and sexual violence advocate Lisa Sales and domestic and sexual violence attorney Susheela Varkey from the Virginia Poverty Law Center.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. Can you bring us up to date on this case?
Yeah, so I'm flashing the Stop Violence Against Women, which is the National Organization for Women sign, because it shows you the power of the people in this room, the power of us uniting, the power of Loudoun Now, Virginia Now, Network Nova, Virginia Normal, coming together in 36 hours to make a difference, to apply a pressure campaign, to engage in advocacy. And what we accomplished by doing so is a change in the outcome or a change in the result for Katie ultimately. So what you last heard Jalicia say is that the motion that her pro bono attorney stepped in to vacate this contempt of court charge against her, which should never have happened in the first place. Contempt of court is rarely used in Virginia, much less against a victim of violence while she's testifying on the stand in front of her assailant. I have been there. I know what that's like, sitting in that chair in front of your assailant. And I did it for 7 years in the court system. So the court system is sometimes not a friend to us. It punishes us. And we need to create the conditions that enable women to come forward, where they feel safe coming forward, where they feel comfortable reporting, where they're not condemned or fired from their jobs. So what the latest is on that, thanks for the question, Julicia, is because of us coming together, because of us mobilizing, because of us engaging, I learned, and maybe you know, maybe you saw the initial ad that went out, Katie Orndorff's plaintiff's attorney was supposed to be on the show today. He could not at the last minute. We had to change up the ad and change up the title because this is hot right now, happening right now. And the judge had actually sent a note to the attorney and said, we will reconsider. So 2 weeks from yesterday, there will be a hearing for Katie Orndorff. And we hope the judge has had a change of heart. Because first he said, absolutely no, I will not entertain the idea of reconsideration. Then he doubled down and said it's without merit. And now he's reconsidering after the press conference and all the rally, protest, and press conference that we called United Together. So I'll stop there. That's the latest, though, but it is being reconsidered.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And you're completely right. We do have to create a safe haven for women. I mean, that's exactly what it's all about. Susheela, I understand that the victim, Katie Orndorff, was subpoenaed as a witness in this case. Can you explain why she was subpoenaed when she was the victim of the assault?
Thank you, Jalicia. That's a really good segue for me to speak. So I want to let people know that I am not a criminal defense attorney or a prosecutor. I've never practiced that type of law. I'm a civil legal aid attorney and I work for the statewide legal aid. So in response to that question, in the criminal case, it is the Commonwealth of Virginia that is filing charges and prosecuting a defendant. So it's the Commonwealth's case. Sometimes a prosecutor may actually have enough evidence to go forward with that prosecution without the actual victim testifying or subpoenaing that victim. So if you think about it this way, the Commonwealth's case against that particular defendant, and they called Ms. Orndorff as their witness. So it's not Ms. Orndorff's case against her abuser. If she, for example, that same incident of violence, that it would have been the third conviction for this particular abuser, from that same incident of violence, a person, a victim, survivor of domestic or sexual violence might be a complaining witness and testify in the Commonwealth's criminal case. They also might pursue a protective order case if they choose to. It's a civil side. That would be Ms. Orndorff's case against her abuser. And that has a different process, different sort of tempo, and it is the victim's case to decide to bring or not. Sometimes, especially with intimate partner violence, in the protective order matter, it may come to a point where it's actually pursuing the protective order is endangering the victim more. So I always try to advise people about whether they want to go through with that process, but it is their process to bring, to ask to modify or dismiss once they've started. That's not the case with the Commonwealth's case, the criminal case against the defendant.
Thank you so much, Susheela, for sharing this with all of us. I mean, what this judge did is simply outrageous. I mean, how do you personally think that this could happen in this day and age, in 2021?
I'll start. I think that it is very difficult for victims to come forward, especially when you're talking about sexual violence or intimate partner violence. It is hard to come forward and get help and subject yourself to the court system, as Lisa mentioned when she first introduced herself. We don't treat victims talking about these very intimate details with support. I think that's a problem that is pervasive throughout our systems. So you can imagine how hard it was for Ms. Orndorff to screw up her courage. This has been happening over and over again. This would have been the third conviction, right? She had to screw up her courage to ask for help. That means call the police, participate with the investigation, participate with the subpoena. She was nervous. She showed up. She's testifying. I wasn't there. As I said, I'm not a prosecutor or criminal defense attorney. I'm not clear why there was an issue that anyone was sent out of the courtroom to talk to the victim on her own. I really don't get why that happened in the first place, let alone led to a contempt ruling and her spending any time in jail. You can imagine all of us hearing about that. Likely there are victims among us. When you hear about something like that, it's going to have a chilling effect, as if it wasn't hard enough to come forward and tell your story and get help and participate in a criminal prosecution. this is my worry, that something like this that's so egregious and frankly victim blaming, if you ask me, is going to have a chilling effect on Ms. Orndorff, on further victims coming forward. And we need to figure out how to address it. When I stop talking, I'm going to put a link in the chat for the JIRC form, the Judicial Inquiry Review Commission form. It is a one-page form that anyone who witnessed improper behavior in court by a judge can fill out. There's one for judges and there's one for magistrates. I talk about it in every training I give. So I'll put both those links in the chat and stop talking.
Okay, well, thank you so much for providing us that link and allowing everybody to continue to follow through with that link to see how we can help, and especially help other women, because the victim blaming, like you had said, that's where we all need to make sure that we do create that safe haven and make sure that women are protected, which leads just to my last question. And I can bring it right back to Lisa. What message do you think this sends to victims?
Yeah, so Susheela hit it right on the head, right? It's already one of the most underreported or not at all reported offenses in America, in the world, really. Women don't report. And as she said, the perfect word, and I would have said it had she not, is chilling. There's no incentive for us to report. If I'm going to go a little further than she did, we're confined to this racist, misogynistic system that is in desperate need of reform. And one of the other things I'm working on, speaking of the JIRC, the JIRC for this JIRC, J-E-R-K, it's not widely known. I have been working with some of our legislators to make sure that JIRC forms are in every municipal office, are more readily available, posted in PDF, accessible to the public and known about, publicized, so that folks know that if you have a complaint, you can bring that complaint. I think there's also an issue of training. Can you imagine this judge who is empowered by the gavel has never once been required to take a CLE, that stands for Continuing Legal Education, has never been required to take a CLE course in domestic and sexual violence. There's also a problem, as I understand it, and maybe some of our legislators that are here in the room, in the Zoom room with us today, can speak more to in the after chat, but this judge was fast-tracked and he didn't go through any proper vetting. He's the former Commonwealth's attorney for Fauquier County. And there are, this is one story. We're currently compiling a list of other transgressions by this judge. So it's really shameful that he could be in a position to decide outcomes in the lives of victims who so bravely step forward to tell their stories. If this is how the system responds to us, then we all in this Zoom room have a lot of work to do to reform the system as it is and make it easier for us to step forward.
Absolutely. And thank you to both of you for joining us and sharing further detail into what took place and how we can all move forward to create these safe havens and protect women. We're going to give Buta Biberaj, the Commonwealth attorney for Loudoun County, the last word. Buta is very sorry she couldn't be with us today to talk about this important issue, but she met with us earlier this week and she's here to provide some calls to action. So tune in.
Very much for having this very important conversation with our community. As the Commonwealth's attorney for Loudoun County, it is my obligation to make sure that we are protecting all of the participants that come into the courts. As everyone has had some information about recently, is we had an incident in Loudoun County wherein that may not have happened to its fullest and best outcome. We've been trying in an effort to make sure that this is not an experience that she identifies being a victim with our court system, one that is a permanent trauma for her. But what we want to be able to have everybody who's listening is to listen to this factor. This is an anomaly. This is not what normally happens to victims who come to court, that they are the ones then who are taken out in handcuffs, and incarcerated. That is not what you should expect. We want people who are victims of domestic violence or any crime to have faith in the system. That when you come to court and you are working with the prosecutor's office, my office, that you will be treated with dignity and respect, and know that your case will be one that will be evaluated. And if it is one that can go forward, that it will go forward. And that when you go in front of a judge or a jury, that you'll be treated with dignity and respect. Those are the expectations that you should have and you shall have for our criminal justice system. Domestic violence is one of the areas that we have the lowest level of prosecution. Approximately 70% of the cases, and this is not just recently, this is historically. We were able to get the data from 2018, 2019, and 2020 that showed over 70% of the domestic violence cases end up in either being null pros, which means not prosecuted, or dismissed. This is why we need you, the community, to assist us in doing a couple of things. One is changing the stigma of domestic violence, because I tell you this, it does not matter what your race is, your gender, your socioeconomic class, your educational level. Every one of us can, and some of us have been, victims of domestic violence. Every one of us in those roles can also be the person who can be a support system for somebody who is experiencing that. Not all domestic violence ends in death, but all domestic violence causes trauma. So not only from the person to person, but also the individuals in that household. If there are kids who are subjected to seeing domestic violence in their home, what ends up happening is that they then learn a couple of things. One, that they should respond in anger in situations of stress, or that they should be okay, in the sense, not okay in accepting, but expecting that they might be treated in that fashion by somebody, an intimate partner. It is up to our community to break the cycle and treat this as a health crisis. At the end of the day, the courts can only do so much, but we as a community, we can do so much more. And that is my ask for you as a viewer or as a person who has been a participant on this show. Please do this for us. Help us break the cycle.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much, Susheela. It's so great to have you guys here and talk about this case. And I know it for domestic violence and victims, the work, justice just continues. We continue the fight. So we'll definitely be back in touch to see how the case is going. And Julissa, you're getting some rave reviews in the chat. So that's awesome. I love it. I love it. And we want to move on to our next section to make sure everybody gets respect on the show. You've come on the show and we have a great organizer with us, an activist. In fact, I came down to the memorial when you held your organization, NACASEC, held that memorial at the Peace Memorial for the Stop Asian Hate. When we came down in solidarity to stand at the Peace Memorial in Annandale. So I got to meet your group there and just watch and just participate. And so I wanted just to tell you that we're with you on that. Just so tragic, those murders and everything, but your group was there and you were a very impressive group.
Thank you.
Yeah, like badass. I was like said in my team, I'm like, these women had like shirts on that said feminist badass on their shirt. I'm like, we need to meet these activists down in Annandale. So tell us more about your organization, what you do, and what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I wear two hats, right? My name's Sugyung Oh, everyone. I use she, her pronouns. And the two hats that I wear is that I am the Virginia director of the NACASEC Action Fund, which is a C4 organization. And I'll be talking more about that work today, given the tie-in with the November elections. I'm also the director of NACASEC Virginia, which is a C3 organization. And it was the C3 that organized that candlelight vigil earlier this year. So I'm happy to put websites for both organizations so that you all can learn more. I'll be, again, talking more about the Action Fund. We work nationally to engage Asian American voters, like in Virginia this year, Georgia earlier this year, and Pennsylvania in 2020 to build power. And we've been active in the state, in the Commonwealth since 2019. You know, nationally, I don't know if you know this, but APIs, or Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, that's an acronym I'll be using fairly often, are the fastest growing community of color based on the latest 2020 census data. Our communities increased 35.5% from 2010. And when it comes to voting, Asian Americans do turn out. In 2020, the Asian American voter turnout rate increased by 10 percentage points over 2016, which was actually higher than any other racial or ethnic group. In Virginia, we estimate that about 8% of the statewide electorate is Asian American and Pacific Islander, with the largest ethnic groups being Indian, Filipino, Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. We also know that nationally, right, API voters, about a third are limited English proficient, or LEP. In Virginia, from 2012 to 2018, the number of eligible API voters grew by 37%. You know, compare that to a 6% growth for the statewide eligible voting population during the same time period. So what I'm trying to say is API communities are growing, and so is the electorate, and we are turning out. And you know, there have been some surveys that indicated that for the 2020 elections, one of the reasons API voters didn't vote was they were concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And consequently, what we did see in 2020, right, is that Asian Americans significantly did use vote by mail more than any other racial or ethnic group. And it was certainly something that the Action Fund heavily promoted. So, you know, today I was asked to speak a little bit more about our C4 work. So I wanted to give a little bit of context for all the wonderful listeners and viewers there who have joined us today. So it's really clear, right, that Asian American voters, we will turn out to vote for elections that are important to us. But who's talking to us in our languages and on issues we care about? As I mentioned before, 34% of API voters are LEP. So our work at the Nakasek Action Fund to specifically focus on API voters, we put a huge significance in language access and language justice. So we have translations in different languages because we believe that all eligible voters, regardless of their English language fluency, should be able to exercise their right to participate in this democracy. So this includes talking to folks, again, about voting early in person and voting by mail. So to date, what we've done in Virginia is we're knocking on doors, we're texting, mailers, ethnic media outreach, and other educational materials. All of our lit, mailers, websites, texts, we do them in English, Korean, Vietnamese, and Chinese. So on the doors, you know, voters, I'm sure many of you have experienced this, right? Voters really like learning about early voting as a safer alternative to voting on election day. And we've had lots of conversations where API voters will say they didn't even know an election was happening this year in Virginia. You know, we've got that funky off-year election, and they're really grateful we're sharing in-language resources for them. So to wrap up, I'll say a little bit about the work we're doing in the 40th district. So we're knocking on doors in that district in coordination with friends and allies like SEIU 512. Y'all are going to hear from David Broder soon, and New Virginia Majority. I'm sure many of you are looking forward to hearing from Maya Castillo, but you know, you had me instead. So I'm sure you'll learn much more about New Virginia Majority in a future show. So for the Nakasek Action Fund, our multilingual canvassers and volunteers, we're pushing an endorsed slate of Terry McAuliffe, Hala Ayala, Mark Herring, and Dan Helmer. We chose this particular House race because it has one of the highest densities of Asian American voters. APIs make up 18% of all voters in the district compared to 8% statewide. And we're in two particular precincts with even higher densities of API voters of 31 and 33%. The Republican opponent is Harold Payan. He's a Korean American who's using his Korean and Asian American and immigrant identity to drum up crossover voting of Asian American Democrats. And he's saying, well, I can best represent your interests. And I'm going to say, well, not all skin folk are kinfolk. You know,
Right.
some of you may have heard that Pion's campaign recently authorized a mailer using obvious and well-known anti-Semitic imagery. So later today, we will be releasing our statement, in particular targeting Korean Americans, to say that we're disgusted and outraged that his campaign would stoop to this kind of level of attack. Because, you know, we're talking about a time when Asian Americans are speaking out about our experiences of racially motivated verbal and physical harassment and violence. And yet here is a Republican, you know, candidate of color who allowed his campaign to authorize a hateful message targeting Jewish communities. So this is just another reason why we as an Asian American organization, the Nakasek Action Fund, we're really proud to endorse Dan Helmer for delegate, as well as the other three candidates mentioned above.
We love Dan Helmer. Just by the way, we work.
Oh, great.
No, what I mean is that he's just a great person and a wonderful person of integrity and honor and service. So we really worked hard to flip that seat. And I'm interested in just the Republicans were really doing some good recruiting this year, trying to, you know, you see that what they could do to sort of try to grab that seat, right?
Right. And, you know, the GOP doesn't just do that through recruiting, you know, sometimes in some cases more diverse candidates. Right. But, you know, again, just because someone looks like you doesn't mean that they are really there for your best interest, right? But the GOP is doing a much better job reaching out to Asian American voters. So that's why we, you know, for us, the Nakasek Action Fund, you know, we are independent, you know, we are independent C4. We're not like some arm of the Democratic Party. We run our own endorsement process independent of the party and other organizations. But what we find is that, you know, given the growing numbers of Asian Americans who are eligible to vote and they haven't registered to vote yet, the numbers of registered Asian American voters, right, that our work that is multilingual, multicultural, our canvassers look like the voters we're trying to reach out to, and we speak and write in the languages that they do, is even more important than ever in Virginia. So I believe in the chat we were able to post 2 call to actions and really invite your audience, especially if your audience knows folks who are Asian American and want to get involved with an organization like us. Our doors are welcome.
Thank you, Soo-Young. It's so great to have you finally on the show and to work with you. We'll be looking forward to working with you. I'll probably see you on the doors over in Dan's district. We're definitely going to have a fundraiser for him as well. So thank you so much for bringing that today. And we'll go right to David Broder. This is a friend you know. David is a tireless fighter for working rights. He's the president of the SEIU 512. And look at you with your background. I love it, the Latinx Heritage Month. How are you doing, David? What's going on in your world of labor?
I'm doing great, Catherine. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to spend Friday lunch with y'all.
Well, you and I had a little chitty chat, and I'm a union gal, as I say, raised in Youngstown, Ohio, family. My dad's a master plumber, always been a union. I understand the value of unions, the power of unions, what it brought our family. And you're fighting for that in Virginia. So I'd love to hear what you're doing now, even around repeal right to work and and what we saw the other day, trying to talk about that issue and why it's so important to do that in Virginia, according to you. And then what you're fighting for these essential rights in Virginia. What is going on for these working families and hard workers?
I love it. And we want to get right to action. So I put some links in the chat and really ask if everybody can click those and help us take action. So just like you, Catherine, I grew up in a union house. My grandparents were union members. My mom was a union teacher. And that made all the difference in my life. What that meant is that we had food on the table and we could go see a doctor and we never had to choose between the two. What it means is that right now, my mom in her retirement can enjoy her years, can enjoy being with her granddaughters, and we don't have to worry about what will happen to my parents. Will they be homeless? That's what every family wants. And that's what the labor movement believes. We believe, and for this, sometimes we get called radicals, we believe that everyone should have a good job. No matter what you do, everyone should have a good job. And by good job, we mean you should make a living wage. You should have quality, affordable healthcare and strong benefits, including paid family medical leave. And I know we have a lot of advocates of that here. That you should have retirement security at the end of your career, and you should have a voice on the job. We also believe in the labor movement that there is no economic justice without racial justice, without immigrant justice and environmental justice. We need all of these justice fights combined. And to get to that goal, we know that budgets matter, we know that policy and laws matter, but we believe the best way to get a good job is that every single worker needs to have the right to choose to come together in a union. The ability to bargain a contract, collective bargaining, is the single best way that workers can get ahead. It's the single best way to deliver great services. And it's the single best way we found to close racial and gender pay gaps. And so that's what's on the line right now, because we also know that in Virginia, for far too long, racism and sexism and anti-immigrant bigotry have kept tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Virginians from even having the right to join a union if they want to. That is outrageous, right? That is the legacy of right to work. That is the legacy of so many laws that intentionally trying to divide Black and brown, white API workers from building a cross-racial movement. Here's the good news. We can do something about it. And again, we put those links in the chat, and thank you, Rosemary, for putting them back in. We can actually do something about it. For 44 years, Virginia outlawed collective bargaining for public sector workers. We were one of just 3 states. So I know sometimes we say, don't Texas, Virginia, but the truth is public employees in Texas have way more rights than those in Virginia do. Right now, we were way out of the mainstream, but with your help, we repealed that ban for city and county workers right now. And that means that counties have the opportunity to move forward. So in the next month, Fairfax and Loudoun County counties will vote on whether or not to give collective bargaining rights to frontline mental health staff, librarians, social workers, health department, everyone we've called a hero, everyone we've called essential. Fairfax and Loudoun County will have the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is, and in these 2 wealthiest counties in America, make sure that workers have rights. We believe they want to do the right thing. They need to hear from y'all, because they are hearing from the other side. We know, right, that the same anti-woman, that the same racist forces who are mobilizing against us, who are using critical race theory and other dog whistles to try to keep us apart, we know that they're saying, no, workers shouldn't have rights. So we need everyone to take action. In the link, you can email the boards in Fairfax and Loudoun, depending on where you live. Next Tuesday, if you're in Fairfax, join us outside the Government Center. And on October 13th, if you're in Loudoun, join us there. Heck, join us at both.
Yeah, I think, yeah, why not? I think it definitely is an issue that we have to elevate up. And isn't that humbling to know that Texas has better worker rights, that Virginia, we have a lot of work to do. So that means that after this lunch, it's time to get busy. David, it's always a pleasure to see you and fighting for workers' rights and which makes stronger families and a stronger Virginia. So it's that time again to say thank you to all our guests. Hopefully, maybe we could end out with a little bit of respect as we go out the door. Hopefully you can stay for the after chat. Make sure you like us on social media. And all that good stuff, and get into action, write postcards, knock some doors. We are in the last days of what it's going to take to get us over the line. And I hope Fennell will stick around for the after chat, and some of our candidates I see in the room and some of our badass activists I could see still here with us. We went over today. Sometimes we just go over. It's life. It's because we really feel like the conversation is good. We're glad you stuck with us. So, well, as I say, thank you to our patrons and our backers. We so much appreciate it.